Dutchsinse here. 4:02 a.m. Central Time on Saturday, May 24th, 2014. And we're looking at Earthquake 3D here, which is a USGS feed of the most recent earthquakes. And I have it turned down right now for the last 7 days, and we're looking at everything 4.0 and greater internationally, 2.5 and greater in the US, Puerto Rico, Alaska, and Hawaii. And I want to draw your attention really quick just to the United States. In the past several days, we've seen a swarm kick back up in Oklahoma, spill down to Texas. Down here, these 2.7, 2.5 earthquakes that occurred in the fracking operations across Oklahoma and Texas. Also, 2 earthquakes occurring along the edge of the North American craton, which I've talked about just multiple times in several videos, posted graphics of it. If you don't know about the craton, the unsubducted plate, and how things are working now, we've got the North American plate, which is defined along the states of Idaho, Colorado, extending south into Texas, Oklahoma, and then back up to the northeast. You can almost see it here. The edge of the plate is determined by the mountains and foothills that exist along it. Then we have the deformed edge that goes out to sea. The earthquakes are occurring along the edge of the plate as it's being pressed from the northwest. Now the pressure is coming from the West Pacific, which is doing something that geologists said never occurred, which is pressure is transferring across vast areas and producing earthquakes at the associated areas where the pressure is transferring to. So you have a large disturbance happening here in the West Pacific. Good example of this is over the last several days, we saw earthquakes progress from east to west, terminating in Europe with a 4.2 and 4.9. 4.2 was in central North Germany, and the 4.9 in North Africa. Rather sizable movement for Europe and North Africa, and that's because the pressure is coming from the Pacific plate, which had a huge disturbance happen over the last several years. That was bordered by 2 9.0 earthquakes, borderline 9.0, here at the Indo-Australian plate, and of course the 9.0 that happened in Japan, multiple 8.0s, borderline 9.0s, that happened at Vanuatu and over here in the East Pacific in Chile over the last several months. Several 7.0 earthquakes occurred all the way around the Pacific over the last several months. Many were not talked about by the mainstream media. Now this pressure that's transferring, it's terminating here in Alaska. You can see the lack of earthquakes reported here. Nothing over a 4.0, 3.0 being reported anywhere through British Columbia. That's because the pressure is meeting here at the head of the North American plate and pushing to the southeast. In the past several months, Yellowstone has been pushed southeast and raised by several inches. That's the plate movement that, again, Yellowstone sits right here along the edge of the North American plate, which extends down here through Texas, where they are fracking. Literally, they are injecting water into the crust of the earth to extract natural gas from the edge of the plate. And earthquakes are occurring at these spots due to the pressure coming from the opposite direction that they would normally expect. Now we have 2 lone earthquakes out here in the mid-Atlantic, 5.2, 4.7. This is actually a result of the pressure coming again from the Pacific plate, spilling across Europe and putting pressure here, literally at the closest point to the point where the movement's occurring. It's kind of obvious when you see this here, and you can even take this back and look over the past couple days and see how the earthquakes progress off. So you can watch them spill over, especially over the last couple days. Watch this. Okay, so as the earthquakes are spilling over, they're causing larger earthquakes in adjacent areas that are normally silent. So these earthquakes happening here at this cluster point near Nicaragua, we need to watch to the northwest of this area. This would be in the area of central Mexico again, going up into Baja, maybe even as far north as Salton Sea, San Diego area. We need to watch this region for larger movement because of all the 4 and 5.0 earthquake activity happening to the south. Same thing with Chile and Peru. You see this cluster of earthquakes happening at multiple levels, some shallow, some deep. Those are occurring in a region where we saw multiple 7 and 8.0 earthquakes happen last month or the last 2 months. So we need to watch the adjacent area, the silent area where we would normally expect some kind of movement. We need to watch up here in the north part of South America, possibly as far north as Colombia. Also, We saw a 6.0 strike east of Puerto Rico this past week. That's fallen off the map now, but that was followed up by another 4.5. And again, the pressure coming from the northwest, this is its termination point down here in near the equator almost. West Pacific, we need to be on watch. This amount of movement says that we're going to be seeing another large earthquake in the near term in the next several days. Unless things die out, we can look just over the last 48 hours. You can see the cluster points, okay? Again, these deep earthquakes, they're happening in the asthenosphere. The asthenosphere being the semi-melt area beneath the crusts, which, if you see this movement happening at a deep level, you watch the area in between the two deep movements, or if there's just one area of movement, you watch to the northwest of the area moving. So in this case, we would watch in between again in Micronesia, right here, where it's kind of silent actually recently. I would like to urge everybody, always have an earthquake plan ready and be prepared just in case. You know what? As I'm talking right now, 5.7 just struck in the area that I was just talking about. So we're looking at a borderline. This could go up to a 6.0 possibly, but a borderline 6.0 happening as I'm talking here in the area where we were just talking about it being silent. So you can see the area spilling up here to the north central Mexico. Also, smaller movement we can expect along the edge of the North American craton. That would be as far north as Quebec, Ontario. Again, where the split occurs here in the plate, we see that movement follow up after we see the swarms happen here to the southwest. Imagine the pushing happen from the northwest, pushing down to the southwest, and then displacing the whole plate up to the northeast. It's kind of wild to see it all happen in a week's time. Normally you would be told that this would happen over tens, hundreds, possibly thousands of years. You're seeing movement happen. Yellowstone move multiple inches in a few months' time. You're seeing earthquakes progress across vast areas, thousands of miles apart, where earthquakes are related. One earthquake does lead to another. We can see an earthquake occur in Micronesia caused by a swarm in Vanuatu. Can never pronounce that place right, but swarm here leads to earthquake here. 1,000 miles away, 500, 800 miles away, however far that is, many hundreds of miles away. And we see it happen over and over and over again. Hey everybody, Dutchsinse here. 5:36 a.m. Central Time on Saturday, May 24th, 2014. And if you just watched the earthquake update fully, I had it processing up, and as that happened, a 6.9 magnitude earthquake just struck in Greece. And it was originally a 6.4, elevated to 6.9. Very sizable for the region, and I urge you to go back and just watch the update and see what's happening with the earthquakes as they're spilling over from the Pacific. Now we do need to be on watch going forward into the future now, especially in Europe, as this area shows compensation movement in adjacent areas around the swarm spot. We can expect further larger movement in the near term, specifically in this region now. Definitely. Okay, guys? Again, always have an earthquake plan ready. Be prepared just in case. You never know when you may need it. Be safe.